Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time we're doing a why buy on Jax, the Grandmaster at Arms. I kind of debated on whether or not I should do this video now because we've got Season 4 approaching soon, and I'm sure things are going to change. Even though most of the changes are geared towards the jungle and the bot lane, I imagine that will have a pretty big impact on the meta overall, even in lanes. You know, like even something as simple as like if you have more carries coming out of the jungle or whatever, then that's going to impact champions that are picked in mid and top. So, or if supports are getting more gold, you'll see unorthodox champions be picked as supports. So, you know, things will change all over the place. And I also think I've heard some rumors about some changes coming to Jax on the PvE to kind of lower his damage a little bit, and nonetheless, I still wanted to do this video for those of you who are curious. I know I have had some requests for Jax, and I have to confess, Jax is a champion that, for whatever reason, I have just never gotten along with. Jax and I have always... I get a little too much damage for that creep. Jax and I have always had problems. I don't know what the deal is, but it just seems like my Jax games go really, really badly, and I end up doing very, very, very poorly. But this was a game... this is not the best game by any means, but I thought that it did show some of what Jax is capable of. And so that's why I kind of chose to use it and thought it would be good for that. So it's not my best gameplay ever for a why buy. Usually I try to get a game where I do fairly well, but I actually really mess up this level 1, so don't pay too much attention because there's some pretty bad play going on here. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into Jax and start talking about what makes him tick. He's a top laner, pretty much. You can also play him in the jungle, but I would say he's pretty exclusively played in the top lane. And he is more of a carry-style top lane who builds a ton of damage. He's definitely, I would say, considered a hyper carry along the lines of somebody like Vayne or even Kog'Maw. You know, he's right up there in terms of late game hyper scaling, tons of damage, can absolutely one-man carry a team on his back. So, yeah, this is where I start to mess up because there's so many creeps here, but they're just not quite far enough away, or they're not quite too far enough back so that I can get them safely, but I still want them, but then they're not close enough so that, yeah, see, Jace is getting so much free poke on me, and he just all-ins me, and I die. So, very much misplayed that level 2 right there. But I got a bit of CS, so kind of not necessarily worth it, but nonetheless. So anyways, hyper carry, he's got good mobility, which is one of his greatest strengths, is his mobility is really high. And he also has a lot of damage and tankiness built into his kit. He's one of the champions where you can build a lot of damage and you get a lot of tankiness out of it because of the way his ultimate works. So that's one of the things that makes Jax very unique and makes him able to hyper carry. He scales with items so hard. Just a very strong champion overall. And definitely a strong pick right now. If you watch the World Championships, he was seen constantly. He's one of the big top laners, especially with the changes to Trinity Force that really skyrocketed him back into the limelight as one of the premier top lane picks. So anyways, let's get into his skills and abilities and talk about what makes him tick. So his passive is Relentless Assault. This is a stacking auto attack speed buff. So basically, you auto attack and you gain more attack speed per auto attack up to a 6 stack cap. So I got a little Volibear gank coming in. I try to bait it out nicely. There goes the counter strike. There goes the jump. There's the stun. There's the ignite. Gonna flash in for the last auto, and he should be dead. Live, Volibear, live! He's okay. Alright, very nice. Good job, Voli. Good gank. That's what I needed to get back in this lane after that early mistake. So anyways, this is a pretty massive attack speed buff. At max rank, I don't know exactly how it levels up, but at max rank, max stacks, you have an 84% attack speed buff, which is massive. This is like pretty much straight up equivalent to Tristana's Q, which is 90%, which is always kind of my standard for a really high attack speed buff. So this is really awesome. It makes Jax very powerful in sustained fights. So the longer that a fight goes on, the stronger Jax becomes, because he just gets more and more attack speed, and he becomes harder and harder to deal with. So you really want to, as Jax, you want to get into sustained fights. If you're playing against Jax, you want to try and burst him, because if you play against him in a sustained fight, you're probably going to lose. His dueling potential is almost unrivaled because of this. And also, on a other side note, is his tower pushing is crazy. He's one of the best split pushers and tower pushers in the game because of this passive. Right up there with Tryndamere, I would say. So anyways, that's his passive, Relentless Assault. You want to try to get this. A quick tip too, if you're wanting to go ham in lane, what I like to do is to try to stack this up as quickly as I can, and then go ahead and use my combo so that I've got my passive stacked up, so I've got a lot of attack speed going, and then that way then my trading can be even better because I have a ton of attack speed stacked up and ready to go. Yeah, that's his passive. It's a really, really strong passive. Definitely a core part of his kit and his identity as a duelist, as a sustained fighter. Very, very powerful. Next up would be his Q, Leap Strike. This is where he will jump onto an enemy. I just did it there onto Jace. So he jumps on an enemy and deals physical damage. Pretty straightforward. It actually has a mixed scaling, so it's skilled with ability power and attack damage, although it deals physical damage. So that's an important thing to know, that this ability deals physical damage. I don't know if I said this before, but Jax deals a ton of mixed damage, which makes him very, very difficult to itemize against, which is one of the reasons why he's such a strong hyper carry. Because it's almost, like against a Tryndamere or a Fetty carry, you can just build a Thornmail and a Randuin's, and you're pretty much mitigating a lot of their damage. But here it looks like, ooh, almost able to get the stun off. But against Jax, it's really, really hard to itemize against him and shut him down, just because he's so, so strong with his mixed damage. Pretty straightforward ability. Has a fairly low cooldown at max rank, 6 seconds. I know that some people like to max this first. I think I like to max it second in favor of my W, but it's definitely viable to max this first, and you just become very, very mobile. And an interesting about this too is you can jump to a lot of different things. You can jump to enemy units, enemy minions. You can jump to wards. You can jump to friendly units. There are a lot. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if you can jump to friendly units. Let me try and look that up a second, because I know you can jump to wards on any targetable object. Okay, so the exception is towers and inhibitors. Okay, so my understanding is that this can be used. Okay, so even funny things like mushrooms and Jarvan's Demacian Standard, the team or Shaco's Jack in the Box. That's kind of funny. Oh, it looks like I go all in onto Jace and pick up another kill. So starting to kind of snowball that early gank out of control, and do pretty well for myself. So anyways, that's his Leap Strike. It's definitely core and a very strong part of his kit. Next will be his W, Empower. This is an auto attack enhancement, and it also will reset the auto attack cooldown. And it will deal magic damage, so that's an important thing to know. And so basically, the best way to use this is to auto attack, and then immediately when your light pole hits your opponent, you want to hit W, and then you will auto attack like that same split second. So you're getting 2 auto attacks in for the price of 1, and you're getting the bonus damage from the Empower. And the damage on this is actually fairly significant on a very low cooldown, 3-second cooldown at max rank, with a 60% AP scaling. The base damage only goes up to 180, which isn't massive, but still, for an auto attack modifier on a 3-second cooldown, that's pretty massive. And like I said, scales with ability power, and does magic damage. So again, if you walk up to Jax and he hits you with an auto attack W auto attack combo, that's a lot of mixed damage, and it's a lot of burst damage. And also, this is very useful for stacking his passive very quickly, because you can get that auto attack reset, and you can get a quick 3 stacks on your passive, and get yourself into a very powerful position. You can see I am just going super ham on. There's a flash and a Q, and I'm going to pick up that kill. So I've really started to get ahead of this Jace in lane, thanks to that early gank. Has really kind of got me going. And Jax is definitely one of those champions that can snowball very, very hard, and he becomes very, very hard to deal with once he gets some items. And his W is really a core part of his kit and damage. You really want to learn when to use that auto attack W auto attack combo. It's kind of his core damage combo. Get the passive going, like I said. You can also use this on his Q. If you hit W and then you Q onto opponent, the Leap Strike or the Empower damage will be applied to your Leap Strike. So that's a good thing to know. You can see just how quickly I am wrecking this tower with my passive, getting a ton of free attack speed. So very, very good stuff right there from his W. Next up will be his E, his Counter-Strike. This is his 1-point skill, but also probably his most important skill. It's very unique, and it has some very interesting mechanics that you don't actually see very often. I wonder if I'll do it soon. He raises his lamppost above his head. I'm not going to go in. And he will any basic attacks that are dealt to him during that time period are dodged completely. So there are no basic attacks will deal damage to him, and then 25% less damage from area of effect abilities. So he takes a great reduction in damage, especially against auto attack champions. This is really, really powerful. And then you can let it go for the duration, or you can activate it again. And then Jax will deal physical damage and stun nearby enemies for 1 second. And then the damage is increased for every auto attack that was dodged. So this is a really important part of Jax's trading and his combo and his ability to kind of stay alive and soak up a lot of damage. And so, like I said, one of the things that makes Jax so scary is that he's very tanky and very hard to deal with, even though he's dealing a lot of damage. And part of the reason that is because of his E, his Counter-Strike, because it allows him to dodge all basic attacks. So any champion relying on basic attacks is rendered useless against Jax for that second, for those 2 seconds. So very, very powerful ability in Counter-Strike. And learning when to use this properly is really, really core. There are times when I see. Okay, so it looks like I get jumped on here. Let's see how I get out of it. Get taunted. Throw a ward over. Jump onto that ward. Looks like Fizz comes for me. I'm pinging for Karthus to come help me out. And I'm going to sit in this brush, going to hit my... There's the Counter-Strike, going to jump onto Fizz, get a nice W right there, getting some nice auto attacks as well. Can't quite get vision of Fizz. It looks like he is going to escape. My Q just came up off cooldown. Probably... Oh, it looks like I wasn't quite enough to get it. Oh, I wonder if Fizz Playful Trickster to get out of that, because he looked like he was going to die. I think he must have. So anyways, a good use of Counter-Strike there to get the stun onto Fizz and to go turn that around and help Karthus pick up a kill. So last step will be his ultimate, Grandmaster's Might. This is a really cool and powerful ultimate. Looks like I'm going to try to duel it out with Jace here, but eating a little bit too much damage, and my Counter-Strike didn't do enough for me. So that was kind of a misplay on my part. Just kind of testing my limits, really. But anyways, Grandmaster's Might, this is a very powerful ultimate, and again, a very core part of Jax's kit. So it has a passive component where every third auto attack will deal bonus magic damage. And it actually is quite a bit of damage, and it scales really, really well with ability power. So this is definitely, like I said, a core part of his kit. And you want to try and I wish that there was like a little indicator in your hotbar to kind of tell you when your passive was up from your ultimate, but it doesn't actually do that. But the best way that I know how to tell is if you listen, it actually does a different sound. Like it's kind of it has like an extra thwack. And if you watch when I'm hitting these minions, that little circle right there, I'm pretty confident that that is the indication that you just hit your passive. So he does a little bit, 3 right there, 1, 2, 3 right there. So it does the little thwack noise, and it also does the little yellow circle underneath your opponent. So if you watch when I'm hitting these minions, every third auto attack is going to give me that. It does the little extra thwack noise. I think his attack animation changes as well, and it also gives the little yellow circle underneath the minion. So keeping track of this is really important, and this is a really, really powerful part of his damage because it synergizes really nicely with both his W and his passive. Like I said, such an important combo to Jax is to hit that W auto. And if you'll notice, the auto is just a standard auto attack. The W is empowered, and then the third one is going to be empowered by your passive. So just going to flash out of that Fizz ultimate right there. Didn't want to have any of that shenanigans. But so if you get those quick 3 auto attacks in, you're capable of doing a boatload of extra damage. And again, like look, the first basic attack is physical. The second and third also have the base damage from your auto attacks, but then they have additional magic damage that scales with AP. So you have a ton of mixed damage in that short combination, and it's just going to deal a lot of damage. So and then he also has an active component where he activates it, and for 8 seconds he gains bonus armor and magic resist. And this is a very unique thing. I think the only other champion that I know this kind of exists on is Riven. See, we're jumping onto this Jace. Can use my nice job by Volibear to get the flip, and then that comboed nicely into my Leap Strike plus Counter Strike combination. Very, very nice play right there. But anyways, like I said with his ultimate, it gives him bonus armor and magic resist that scales with his attack damage and his ability power. So another kill on this Rammus. So this Volibear is just going super handy and really good to me. So like with Riven, her shield scales with her attack damage. So if you build attack damage or ability power on Jax, you're basically giving yourself free defense because of your ultimate. So you get 30% of your attack damage as armor, you get 20% of your ability power as magic resist. So building kind of a mix is really, really important on Jax, because then you can really take advantage of his ultimate. And like I said, it makes him very tanky, even though he built a lot of damage, which makes him very scary. So anyways, those are Jax's abilities. I would say that the biggest thing is to use your Q to kind of get in range. Using your Counter-Strike is it's a very complex skill that it's hard to just say, like, oh, this is always when you use your Counter-Strike. Because there are a lot of times when it's good to use your Counter-Strike. It's just a very complex ability, and it's very situational. And it looks like here I am split pushing. I said before, while my team is fighting, and actually they're all kind of dying, but I said before that Jax takes towers faster than almost anybody else in the game, so that's why I chose, instead of roaming down my team, I chose to try and take this tower. And if you watch this little series, I go super ham to get this inhibitor, and it really shows you what Jax is capable of in terms of being a split pusher. Just look how fast I'm hitting this. I mean, my attack speed is just crazy right now. But anyways, for Jax's abilities, I would say his main combo is it's all kind of based off of his Q to initiate in lane. I have like 5 levels up on this Rammus. This guy has no shot against me. He doesn't have any magic resist either, so he's in trouble against all my magic damage. So Rammus is trying to get me off this. Now Leona comes. She's going to try to get me off of this using all of her stuns. I don't really care. I hit my ultimate, and so I'm really, really tanky. If you look, I've got like a ton of armor and magic resist, and now I'm going to try and get away, using my Blade of the Ruin King there to try to get away. Oh, unfortunately, though, I do get hit by Rammus, and now Jace comes in, and I might be in a little bit of trouble. I think I might actually get away until right there when Fizz shows up, then I'm done. So that was the end of that shenanigans, but I'd say it was worth it because I did end up getting an inhibitor, even though helping my team probably would have been a good choice as well. But anyways, to kind of cover Jax's combos, a lot of it is based off of his Q. So if you're going for more of a damage combo that you don't want to go all in, I would say the best way to do that would be to do a W and then Q. So you get your Empower and then you get your Q off. And then that kind of sets you up for a really, really nice, just immediate burst of damage because you get the W empowered onto your Q. And then you can use your E to disengage if they try to retaliate with some auto attacks, or if there are a lot of creeps attacking you. You can just soak up all those auto attacks with your Counter-Strike and get the stun and disengage very nicely. It's a very easy way to get free damage off. If you want to do more of an all-in, it's usually best to start your Counter-Strike for a second, and then Q, and then because you started your Counter-Strike a split second early, you can reactivate it right when you land to get the immediate stun, so that they can't get away. And then when you land, get a nice auto Q, auto W, auto. To get like I said, that combo that I mentioned before. Kind of a bad engage right here, and Volibear is in trouble. But that's kind of his main 2 combos would be a WQ and then E to get away, using my ward to jump over that wall very nicely. Or using your E and then Q and then E again to get the stun, and then an auto W auto. It's kind of his core combo. And then you want to use your ultimate anytime you want to go ham and you're suspecting you're going to take a lot of damage. Because, yeah, between using your ultimate and your Counter-Strike, you can mitigate so much damage that's dealt to you. It's almost impossible to kill a Jax with his ultimate and his Counter-Strike up if he uses them wisely. So, a couple things to keep in mind is to when I decide to use those abilities, because those are really what makes Jax tick in terms of staying safe and dealing damage. So let's cover itemization quickly. Jax there's kind of like a running joke that any item in the game is good for Jax, and that's definitely true. Jax, because he scales both attack damage and ability power, a more hybrid approach is definitely viable. Items like Trinity Force, Gunblade, am I going to get this kill on Fizz? It looks like I am. Nice, able to pick up that kill onto the slippery fish. He probably shouldn't have gone back in right there. But, so like I said, almost any item is viable on Jax. I mean, like, literally any item is good. Like, he makes use of so many different stats that it's almost impossible to say that an item does poorly on him. But I would say that the common core would be Trinity Force and Blade of the Ruin King. Those are kind of has risen to the top as the best items for Jax. Trinity Force is straight up broken on Jax just because he has so many ways that he can proc the Spellblade passive, which actually provides a ton of damage. Between his W and his Q, which are on low cooldowns, and the passive from his ultimate, actually I don't actually know if Spellblade will proc off of his Grandmaster's Might passive. If you know that, please leave a comment down below. But with his W on a 3-second cooldown, he just gets so much damage, and it's one of those things where, you know, it just stacks so well. Like I said, that auto W auto, you know, not only will that, you're getting your auto attack damage on the first auto, you're getting the Empower on the second auto, you're getting your Grandmaster's Might passive on the third auto, and you're getting the Trinity Force Spellblade proc on the third auto. I mean, it just is crazy how much damage gets loaded into that little combo with Triforce. So Triforce is so huge, and every stat is good on him. Attack damage is really good. Ability power is really, really good. Attack speed is really good. Help getting, I mean, then your passive, it just goes through the roof. Critical Strike is actually not, you know, he auto-attacks, so Critical Strike is not wasted. The movement speed is amazing. The health is amazing. Health is so good on Jax because he gets so much free armor and magic resist from his ultimate that it will scale multiplicatively with his, actually I'm not actually sure if multiplicatively is the right word, but like, so the idea with that is that if you're buying defensive stats, if you get free health, you want to buy resistances. Ooh, a really nice crescendo there from Janet, and I'm going to go super ham using my Counter-Strike to eat a ton of damage. There's like 4 people here. I do end up going down, but we end up getting Karthus in such a good position, and Caitlyn comes in, so this is actually a 4v5. And my team is able to clean that up really well. I was tanking so much damage with my Counter-Strike and my ultimate that was really able to help my team clean up this fight. There's the Karthus ultimate, and that is going to be an ace, and we only lost 2. So very, very nice play right there. Able to get right in the mix, and like I said, with my Counter-Strike and my ultimate, going to eat a ton of damage. But anyways, what was I saying? I think I was talking about Triforce. But anyways, oh yeah, I was talking about defensive stats. So if you get a lot of free armor and magic resist like you do on Jax, if you buy more, then it just scales additionally. But if you buy health, then it will scale multiplicatively, meaning that you get more out of it, because health and armor and magic resist scale together. So like, the more armor and magic resist you health, the more armor and magic resist you have, your health goes further, and vice versa. The more health you have, if you get armor and magic resist, that will go further than it would normally. So you want to get a mix of those stats. So because you get so much armor and magic resist, it's usually best to buy at least some health to get kind of like I said, as much mileage as you possibly can out of those stats. So Triforce is amazing on Jax. He makes such good use off of every statistic, and it's definitely core. Blade of the Ruin King is also super, super good. You know, the attack damage is great. The attack speed is really, really nice as well. Like I said, getting his passive going even faster. Because it requires multiple auto attacks to stack your passive, so the more attack speed you have, the more quickly you stack your passive is the thought there. And look at this, Fizz just absolutely trolled me right here. I flashed to try to get the Q, but he got away. Oh shoot, got caught out right there going for that slippery fish. And then what else? So, and then the active is also really, really nice for helping Jax stick to targets. So not only does he have his Q on a 6-second cooldown, but he also has an activatable slow to make sure he sticks to targets. Let's see, these guys are fighting like crazy over here. And then also the lifesteal is really, really nice because Jax is such a strong duelist that the lifesteal goes really, really well with him because he gets so many auto attacks off. Looks like we're going to finish off most of these guys. So that was actually a pretty even trade right there. So good job by my team. So anyways, yeah, and then not to mention that the basic attack deal 5% of their current health on hit, which is really powerful because he has so much attack speed, he can stack that very quickly. So like I said, Blade of the Ruin King Triforce is really good. Randuin's is also a fantastic choice for a defensive option. You can also go Guardian Angel, is really good on Jax, just because you know, he's so hard to deal with, and basically getting a GA means you get to kind of enter the fight twice. And with how much sustained and carry potential Jax has, being able to enter that fight twice just makes you a monster to deal with. So anyways, we're getting kind of this late game status, and I really, really like our chances in this late game with Jax and Karthus. We are so strong in this late game that I think I'm feeling pretty confident in our chance to win. Karthus has been farming a ton, and he's actually pretty massive, but Fizz is also really massive in his own right, so we're going to have to deal with Fizz. So anyways, that's kind of the skinny on Jax. From this gameplay, So basically, what my objective in lane is, kind of calculated aggression is kind of the best way, because with Jax you scale so well into late game that you don't need to snowball and get early kills. Certainly, early kills really are nice and they benefit you, but you don't need them. They're not required to kind of win the game because you scale so well. So basically, you just want to make sure you can farm. Is really kind of the most important thing to do as playing Jax, is to get your farm going, get yourself into those mid to late game team fights, and then from there, you want to be diving. Jax is a diver. He can, and it looks like I'm just going to split push down this inhibitor, even though I know my team is fighting over here, and Caitlyn gets caught out, and she's in a lot of trouble. Karthus is going to jump in. Oh, he actually ulted right there. That was a really poor use of the Karthus ultimate. Yeah, he messed that up. But I did get the inhib. And it looks like I'm going to try and stay. And I think it looks like the minion got the kill for me onto Rammus. So I don't know if that was actually worth it or not. But if Karthus would have saved his ultimate for when he died, that would have been much better. And I think we could have done better there at the end. But, so that was alright. We're doing pretty well. Is Fizz actually going to get... I wonder if he's actually going to die to these minions. That would actually be hilarious. So anyways, Jax, like I said, is a diver. You want to be diving their carries. I mean, Jax is an absolute terror for a late game 80 carry situation. Because it's really almost impossible to peel him off, because he's got so much mobility. He's got his Blade of the Ruin King. He's got his ultimate. He's got his Counter-Strike. He's got so many ways to kind of get on top of you, stay on top of you, and then not die once he gets on top of you, that it makes him very hard to peel off. And he's very powerful in that regard. So, yeah, basically my whole mindset is to either dive onto Varus or to Fizz, because Fizz is definitely the high priority target, so getting onto him would definitely be a good option. But Varus is definitely the best, because he's so immobile that once I get on top of him, there's really nothing he can do to keep himself alive. So that's really my priority. It looks like we got a couple of flashes going on here for this Jace. I don't actually think much is going to come out of it, unfortunately. We're just looking for one last good team fight. If I can get on top of Varus, I can really do my job. And like I said, if I can just get, use my Counter-Strike to get through the enemy team, use my Q to get on top of Varus, use my auto W auto to get a ton of damage off, Blade of the Ruin King, and then just auto attack him down. It just makes Jax impossible to deal with. So yeah, after this, I kind of feel like with Blade of the Ruin King and Triforce, Jax has enough damage to do his job. So after that, I'd like to go tanky, and I really like to get health. Just considering Spirit Visage, because Fizz was so strong, and I know Varus also does some magic damage, and so does Jace, and also Rammus. So they do have a fair amount of mixed damage. So I got my armor boots. So I'm doing pretty okay on armor, and then I was going to go for probably Spirit Visage, and then with the Giant's Belt, I was going to sit on it. Mirandwood's is probably the best choice. I also really like Frozen Mallet, just because I think as an item it's kind of fun, and it makes you so sticky. Like, it's impossible, if I can get on top of somebody, it's impossible for them to get away from me. And Jax is so good in those sustained fights that if I can kind of get into that type of a situation, that's really going to benefit my team, because, like I said, there's just nothing they could do. So now I get on top of this inhibitor, and this thing is gone because I am so strong with my attack speed, and looks like this might be the fight. Yep, there's the flip from Volibear, and now, look there, I see Rammus, there's the Counter-Strike, there's the auto attacks, gonna use my Q right there, and look, he just melts so quickly. I've got 200 armor, 131 magic resist there, I'm jumping on the last target, just so tanky, so much damage. And it's just very hard to deal with. So that's Jax. Not the best Jax gameplay you'll ever see. I am not a Jax expert. I actually think I can go up down here to the Fizz DFG, but still a fun champion. He's a champion that I want to play more and get better at, because he's very powerful. And he's a lot of fun to play. You know, he's very mobile. He's very high damage. He's a strong split pusher. He's got a lot of things going for him in his kit that make him very fun to play and very scary to play against. So anyways, if you guys like this video, let me know down in the comment section below. If you have any suggestions about more Y buys in the future, you can either check, I've done quite a number of Y buys, so make sure to check my playlist to see if I've already done one. Or if you have a suggestion for another one to do, let me know. If you're new around here, feel free to rate or subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.